Yes, let's get started. Today we're going to be looking at loops. And what are loops? Loops are used for iterating over a sequence. And from what we looked at, sequences are data types like list, tuple, dictionary, set, or even a string. So you can actually use loops to perform the same set of functions on all the values in a tuple, all the values in a string, all the values in a list. And those are the things you are going to be looking at. So in order to start, let me quickly share my screen while I wait for other people to join up. Yes, let's get started. Please, can everybody hear me? Can somebody unmute himself and tell me that you can hear me before I can start?
Yes, sir. Go on. Go on, sir.
Okay, thank you and God bless you. Today we're going to be looking at loops, and for us to do this, I'm going to quickly hover over our Python tutorial folder so I can see new file, and I'm simply going to create a new file known as loops.py, and that's what we're going to be looking at today, loops.py. So we're going to be creating this very loops.py. So we actually use loop for iterating over a sequence, and a sequence is simply a collection of values, as we can see in list, tuple, dictionary, set, or strings. So we're going to look at how we can perform the same set of function or of operation on all the values of a tuple, or all the values of a string, or all the values of a dictionary. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to start just the normal way that we normally start by writing out in a comment the definition of what we can use a for loop to do. And there are many types of loops. We have a for loop and we have while loop. So you can actually use any of these two types. And we're going to be looking at these two types. So you can actually say that a for loop is used for iterating. You can use it to iterate over a sequence. So whenever you hear this word sequence, what do we mean by this word sequence? Sequence simply means a collection. And we've actually looked at collections. So this collection could be a list, could be a tuple, could also be a dictionary. And very importantly, it could also be a string, and it could also be a set. So any of these are collections because they have different values. So put together. So you can actually use a for loop to go through them, all those values, and perform the same operation on all of them. That's what we're going to be looking at now. So let's declare something that we can work on. Let's declare a collection. Say, let's start with a list. So let's have a list of students. So if I say students as the name of the variable, so I'm going to mention the students that we have here in Tclassified. What are your names? Can you give me your names? I have Fortune. Okay. Who else is joining us? Abdul. Abdul, I'm going to abbreviate your name to Abdul. Who else is in this class? I have people.
Emeka.
So I'm going to just do this by saying Odinaka. Notice that I'm putting them in single quote because this is a collection of strings. So who else? I have Amos is just joining. So I'm going to have Amos. Who else is on this call? This Zoom call. I have. Can you give me your name? You can unmute yourself and give. I think I also have a friend. Who else? You have 7 people already on the Zoom call. Can they give me any of them give me their names again? One more name. Okay. Let me just write Zainab so that we'll have a girl's name. So that is the list, the collection we've declared. And note that we are having a list now. I could actually have a tuple or a dictionary. So it mustn't be a list. But I want to do this example with a list. So let's write a simple, let's write a very simple for loop. That's what we're going to write, a simple for loop. So how do we write a for loop? You simply say for, use the keyword for. So for student, you want to pick a particular student. For student in the list of what? Students. For students in the list of students. What do we want to happen? What do we want to happen to all the students? For each student in the list of students. That's what this statement means. What do you want to do? Simply want to print, and we're using string F formatting, F string formatting. So what do we want to print? We want to print out I am. So we want the students to mention their name by saying I am. So what do you want? What are you gonna do? We use this curly bracket to put in the very student that we want to bring in, which is student. I'll cover it back up. So for students in students, we want to print I am, mention the name of the student. So you're going to find out that this for is going to do this for all the students. So if you simply say Ctrl S to save, then you come down here and run. So to run this, we say what? Python space loops dot py and press the enter key. We're gonna be able to see. Okay, then no. Why can't open loops.py? No such file directory. So let's check. We have loops.py. You can see the spelling. I got the spelling wrong. I wrote LOPPS. So that's why it's saying that it cannot see that. So for me to do the right thing, I'm simply gonna go in and write it exactly the way I wrote it there, which is LOPPS dot py. So this should work. You can see now I have I am Fortune, I am Abdul, I am Odinaka, I am Amos, I am Ibrahim, I am Zainab. So that's what a for loop does. It goes through all the elements and does the same thing for each of them. So whenever you want to go through all the elements of a collection and perform the same operation on them, that is when you use a simple for loop. I hope it is clear. And that being clear, we're going to move forward by looking at a for loop that has a break statement. That's what we're going to be looking at, a for loop that has a break statement. So how can we get that? Just the same way we'll say for student. Notice that these students I use, you can also say for I in student, print I am I. Even if you replace this student with I, it will work. The most important place is that make sure that what you have after the in keyword is the same as what you have as the name of your collection. But what you use here and here, you can actually choose whatever you want. So I say for students in students, what do I want to happen? So what I want to happen is that I want to say if the particular student I'm looking at if the particular student, or if it is doing the iteration and it gets to this particular student. So what is that particular student? If it gets to Odinaka, what do I want to happen when it's iterating through all these students and it gets to Odinaka? What do I want to happen? So make sure you put a colon, then you come down. What do I want to happen if it gets to them? I want it to simply break. So I want this iteration to break at this very point. Once it gets to Odinaka, I want it to break. So if it breaks, what do we want it to do? I want it to immediately it breaks. I want it to also print using the F string formatting. I want it to print the student is. So once I say the student is, I want to now bring in the variable name, which I'm assuming as what? Student. So that's what I'm using. So I'm going to simply save this by doing Ctrl X. And I'm going to come down here and run it. And you can see that this, from this I am 14 to I am Zainab is for this first line of this first code. But for this one, it just only said the student is Fortune and the student is Abdul. You can see here the student is has to prefix L of them. But why did it stop at only Fortune and Abdul? Because you're telling it that once it meets Odinaka, that it should break out. So it should break out and just print out what it already saw. So I hope that is very clear and simple. So if you want to break out through a loop at some certain condition, that is what you use. Use the break syntax. So having looked at the break syntax, we're going to look at the continue syntax. So the break and the continue syntax are very, very important aspects of the for loop. And you're going to be using it when you're writing your code. And that's why we are looking at them. And to write this, you simply say the same thing. For students in students, what do we want to happen? For students in students, what do we want to happen? We also say if student is equal to, so if you're doing this looping or this iteration, or you are carrying this operation on all the elements, whenever you get to who, let's also use Odinaka again. So whenever you get to Odinaka, what do you want to happen? Do you want it to break or do you want it to continue? This time around, instead of breaking, we want it to continue. But when it continues, what do you want to happen? We actually want it to also print. I'm using string formatting again. What do we want to print? We want to also print that I am. No, not I am. I want us to get the difference. In our terminal, we use I am and we use the student is. So I want us to now say they are. Okay, let's say the people included. The people included. That's what I want to use. The people included. Then I'm gonna simply put inside this student. So that's what I want to do there. So I'm gonna simply say Control S. Then when I come down here and run this code again, we're gonna see we have the people included. We have Fortune, we have Abdul, Amos, Ibrahim, Zainab, but we don't have Odinaka. So it skips only Odinaka but continue with the other one. So that's why we call it a continue statement. So you can see when you want to use continue and when you want to use break. Once you break out of the loop, you don't consider other people. But once you want to continue to consider other people, you use the continue statement. So now another very important concept we need to consider is what we call range. You can use range in for. So let's see how we can do that. So for us to use range, simply say for item. You can use for I or for Olu in or for anything. So I'm just using item. For item in range, so you specify the range you're looking at. So I'm simply going to be looking at the range of the length. You know, this is how you check length. I already know you know this from our list. For the length of elements in student. So that's the range we are considering. So for item in the range of elements in student. So you're checking the items in student variable. For person in the range of student. Okay, let's check person because when you use item, that's if you're assuming human beings to be item. So let's use person. So just like I said, you can use anything here, but what you use here must be the name of your variable. That's variable, which is the list you're considering. So for person in the range of length of person, that means the range is you're considering everything in under student. So what operation do we want to be taking? Simply want to do what? Print. And what do we want to print? We want to print let's just print the number of people there, or number of students. So I'm gonna include this just the way we normally do. So I'm gonna say person. So I'm gonna run this code and see what it gives. If I do Control X and I come down here and I run this code, you can see the number we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is what we have here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are getting the actual number that are the number of items in the students list. So that's what we just got. So we can also have what we call custom range. So let's check out what we call custom range, where we specify. In custom range, you specify what you actually want. So let's say custom range. And under this, we'll make a statement like this: for n, which is number, for n in the range of, so what range are we considering? We're considering from, say, 0 to 12. So for n 0 to 12, what do we want to happen? We actually want to do what? Print like we always do so that we can see the effect. So we simply want to print number. So what are we considering? We're considering n. So I can simply save this, and when I run, I should be able to see number 1, 2, down to the limit that we have. So you can see we have from 0 down to 11 because we have 0. The limit you give here is not going to bring it out. So if you want to see 12 as the last number, we're going to put 13 here because you can see that it's starting from 0 that you specified, but it doesn't include the last number. So take note of that. So that said, we are going to now look at what we call the while loop, because we exhausted what we need to know for now, basically in the for loop. So we're going to be looking at the while loop. So when do we use while loop? When do we use it? Why would we choose while loop instead of for loop? So as we said, we can use for loop to iterate. In while loop, we can also use it to do similar things, but we say that while loops actually execute a set of statements. That's what it does. As long as a very condition that you're considering is true. So as long as the very condition you're considering is true, you will have your while loop to execute. So while loops execute a set of statements as long as a condition is true. So we're going to experiment this. Okay? Yeah, please let me know if you can hear me. Briefly went
Yes, I can hear you.
Can we hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So we are looking at the while loop, and we say that while loops execute a set of statements as long as a condition is true. So let's try this. Difference between the while loop and the for loop is that before you have to declare a variable. So let's say count equal to 0 before you make your while loop. So once you establish this very variable that you declared, you can now say while that very variable, so count, mustn't be count, it could be anything, is less than 10, 20, or 30, depending on what you want to put. So while count is still less than 10, you want to do what? Print. We're always using F string like you all know. Makes that work very easy. So print count then in your curly braces you also put that variable print count. That's what we're looking at. So once after writing this, you're using a while statement, you must increment that very variable that you had earlier declared. And to increment, you simply say, state the name of the variable and simply say plus equal to, simply means add one at each iteration. So whenever you get to after each iteration, add one. That's what this means. So if we do this and say Ctrl S to save, and if we come down again and run, you should be able to see this. So count equal to 0. So where is my error coming from? You can see that indented does not match any outer level. So who can tell me where this error is from? It's very clear. The error is from, you can see it. It has already told us where the error, but I want to see a student that can do this. I think that would be the student that will be getting the 200 naira. It's not what? Talk from the distance so that other people will hear and know that.
The account is not on the same line.
It's not on the same line as what?
Account equal to 0.
No. You're not right. Check very
Hello,
well.
sir.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Count is not the same line with the indented hashtag
Good.
while loops execute.
Good. It's not on the same line as this comment hash, isn't it? Is that what you're trying to say? The last speaker?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
That is the answer. So if I click here and take it back, click here and also take this one back, then get back this indentation to the where they are supposed to be, then this should work, because Python looks as indentation. Indentation is so important in Python. That's why we say Python is so readable and so easy, because it's using indentation to work. So you can see now that it has run. Can you see count 0, count 1, down to count 9, which is what you said here. At count less than 10, which is 9. 9 is the last thing that is less than 10, but it's starting actually from 0. But once it does 0, it should add 1, and that is what you said here. So once it did 0, it was able to do 1, add another 1, add another 1 to 3, until it got to 9 and stopped. And that is that. So the person that answered this, what's your name?
Allah is my name, sir.
Wow, is Ola again?
Yes, sir.
Ola, you took the morning Airtel and you want to take this one again. Okay, it's your love.
Thank you, sir.
So you have enough data now to
And
so,
yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
yeah, so I'll send it. I already have your contact, so I'll send it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So
so with that, we'll come to the end of today. We don't want to take you so long. So if you have any question, remember that I'm having loops here. I'm supposed to have loop. So let me quickly change this so that you also learn how you can refactor the name of, you can rename something here. You can simply right click here and say rename. Can you see rename? And simply make the correction loops. That's what it should be. Then you press the enter key. So you can now see that it is now written well, loops. So if I come back here now, I have to now rewrite this by saying Python loops dot path. Yeah, all the codes are running perfectly. So we've been able to look at variables, been able to look at strings. Under variables, we looked at numbers, floats, and integers. We looked at strings, and we looked at lists, looked at tuple, set, dictionary, and the conditionals, the if-else statements, and elif, and finally the loops, which are the for loop and the while loop. So with that, we'll come to the end of the major basics, and tomorrow we're going to be looking at functions. In the morning and in the evening, we're going to be looking at classes and object-oriented programming using Python. And once we are done with that, we look at modules and look at file I/O, creation of files. And once we are done, we move straight to Tk-enter GUI, using it to build our project, which is going to be an inventory. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment section. If you're following us on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, drop them in the comment section so that I'll look at them, so that in subsequent classes, I will take care of what you have in the question. But until then, always know that everything you want is in Christ Jesus. And the surest way to making it of success is to be a born again. So make sure that you're born again. Thank you. God bless you. And I'm signing off.